Okay, so first up on the agenda, we have Meghan McClelland. She's the Senior Project Manager at Xyratex, a Seagate company. This is a talk to be called State of the Lustre Market. At least that's what this says. OpenSFS commissioned a sort of State of Lustre report. And this is going to present those results. For those of you that are, hardcore admin types, you can check out. For those of you that are, interested in more markety stuff, please pay close attention. Where's Meghan? Oh, there's Meghan. Hi, Meghan. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting Meghan McClelland.
Thanks, Steve. The interrogation lights do make it very hard to see out there. So like Steve said, this is a report that OpenSFS commissioned, and it's a report in what I hope will be a series of reports. Like Steve was saying, this is not a very technical report, but this is our first report. So hopefully there will be more that go deeper into some of the details that developers would be interested in. For now, this is a very markety report. It's a very high-level overview of the community, but that was one of the things that we heard from a lot of people that they wanted to see. An overview of where are things going, what's happening in the community. So for more technical reports, for now we have a Lustre community survey. I think Chris Marone talked about that some yesterday. And we have the benchmarking working group has an IO characterization that you can look at for a more technical report. So the overview of the report, it found that storage growth trends are driving increased opportunity. People need more and more storage everywhere. People are taking more pictures, storing more pictures. People are doing more computations, increasing the amounts of data that are produced from these computations. Everything is growing. There is no data that's shrinking. The report found that Lustre is the most widely adopted parallel file system in HPC, which is really exciting news. I love to hear that one. The report found also that Lustre is primarily adopted in government and academic institutions. It's not so much adopted in the commercial area, which I think is an opportunity for growth for Lustre. The report talked a lot about opportunities in big data. There's this huge intersection area between HPC and big data. And when I think about, well, what does that mean? What's big data? What's HPC? And you start looking at these different models that people use. I was being told about an HPC application that's a Eureka model. Each node in the application works on something, and they all work on something separate. And when somebody figures out the answer, they raise their hand and they say, Eureka, I've got the answer. That smells an awful lot like big data to me. And you start looking at big data, and you see areas where, gee, that could really learn from HPC. Those nodes are talking to each other. These are doing things that HPC knows how to do. And so that's a really big growth area that I think Lustre could be a part of, is this intersection between big data and HPC. So here's the URL for the report. You can download it. I'm very sorry, but we ask for your information. It's annoying to have to put in information. Gee, Meghan, why do I have to put in my name and my organization? Just use the web tracking statistics and be done. Don't make me type anything. Well, web tracking statistics don't give us how many people there are from unique organizations who look at this report. And what we really want to do with this information is justify more reports. We want to see who's looking at these reports so that we can say, gee, a lot of people were interested in this. We had this many organizations. We had these types of fields. So let's think about what kind of future reports we want to do. And I think that's one way that we're going to get there. So a little more about the methodology for the report. Like Steve said, we contracted Intersect 360. It was Addison Snell who wrote it. There were 269 total respondents. The surveys were completed in sort of the second half of 2013, early 2014. And built on some survey information from earlier in 2012. Addison asked a lot of questions in these surveys. He asked users to discuss their environments, their challenges, their gaps. You know, what are your frustrations? What are your problems? What are your successes? Where do you see great things? What are you excited about? In the challenges, he discovered that I/O is a big challenge for people. And I sort of look at this and I say, well, gee, I'm not surprised by that at all. Yes, I/O is a challenge. I have a job. I'm very thankful for this. But I think it's just, it's the recognition that, yes, I/O needs to be focused on. It needs to be worked on. People see problems for I/O. People want more bandwidth. People don't want latency. People want more IOPS. I don't think this surprises a lot of us who actually work in the field, but I think the market trends, this report is aimed at people who don't necessarily know about storage or know about Lustre, and hopefully it can help justify some of these investments people are going to make as they concentrate on I/O more. Satisfaction gaps. I/O performance was the #1 satisfaction gap. I know I've personally heard customers and users and application people who say, all I want to do is compute and get my job done. You know, I/O is just sort of this thing that happens, but it takes forever. And I look at their I/O and I look at their application and I'm like, well, it took 10 minutes out of 60 minutes. That's, well, okay. Any time is horrible. They want it to be as short as possible, and the highest performance possible allows them to get their primary mission done. HPC adoption of Lustre, here are the numbers for the actual reporting for the different segments. So we had 20% adoption in government, which is fantastic, 13% in academia, but a little more, you know, like 8% in industry. So there's definitely growth opportunity there, I think, in every sector, but especially we can concentrate on industry. Again, Lustre was the #1 parallel file system according to this site census survey, which was really exciting, but it's lower adoption commercial. So we can definitely focus there and get more people to use it. And big data presents a huge opportunity to expand the market. We have a quote here from Addison. Storage, software, and services are all high growth segments, and Lustre resides at the intersection of these opportunities. He further went on to say that support and active participation from multiple vendors is critical to broaden Lustre adoption. So all of us working together to broaden adoption, to get the word out, to get people using Lustre. And he felt like, in the report, he was talking about OpenSFS and EOFS as the nexus of this community, getting people together to get the word out, to get people using the technology was really a critical thing. And he talked a little bit, this is an interesting point, he talked a little bit about you're working to attract new members to OpenSFS and to EOFS, but you also have to work to keep the members you have and represent the interests of the incumbents. And this is something where working together with different priorities can be a challenge, but I think it's something that EOFS and OpenSFS have managed very well. So again, here's the URL for the report. And I'm going to stop here and see, does anyone have any questions about the report? Okay, you probably need time to read it. Again, download it. Please don't put in garbage for your registration. I know it's very tempting, asdf@sd.com. Please let us know. Who are you and you're downloading it. I think that information is going to be really useful for us. I know it takes time. We're asking you to do it anyway. The rest of this talk was supposed to be from Tommy Minyard, the community representative, was supposed to be talking today. He wasn't able to make it. But the rest of this talk is really from the community representative to the OpenSFS community. Are there any first-time LUG attendees here? Anyone who doesn't know OpenSFS? Wow, quite a few. That's really fantastic. So I think that all too often we don't talk about the basic level of who we are and what we do. And I know that when I first came into the Lustre community, it was like, well, what is OpenSFS? What is it for? Why is it here? So I want to briefly go over OpenSFS and the structure, especially for those of you it's your first time attending LUG. OpenSFS is comprised of a bunch of member companies. You just saw the list. And these different companies all come together to create this infrastructure and to work together to make a healthy community. The officers and board of directors are mostly responsible. I think probably the most important thing we do is the budget. There is money to be spent, and what you spend it on is, I think, the most important thing that the board of directors does. There are so many exciting different things that we could fund. You know, there's development, there's tree maintenance, there's different features. We can fund annual reports. We can fund a lot of things in ease of use and different things like that. So I think that's the most important thing that the board of directors does. There are several different working groups under OpenSFS. The marketing working group is in charge of the website, press releases, different things that go out to inform people about the community and about OpenSFS itself. The benchmarking working group is a really exciting group that comes together to show different performance characteristics and to do different activities to show, to highlight things. You know, what needs to be worked on, how are things doing, how fast are they going, how fast can they go, theoretically. It's a really awesome group that comes together to really show and highlight the characteristics. The technical working group, the TWG, is responsible for really leading a lot of the feature development that OpenSFS funds. So OpenSFS will get together and put out a request and say, you know, we have these various things that we think should be worked on, or, gee, what do you think should be worked on? And TWG will get together all of these answers and vet the different projects that are proposed, or look at the different things that we want to collect, and really concentrate on, you know, what should we be doing, and then the execution. There are several PAC leaders who work on specific contracts that OpenSFS funds, and they oversee that work and make sure that they do look at it technically and how it's done, but they also do things that we're really interested in, like making sure there's documentation, making sure that the patches make sense, making sure that they're landed. And I think it's really good to sort of have this oversight, especially as we try to look at ease of use. Are all the pieces there? Does this technically make sense? Does it fit in? Is the work the quality that we expect for the Lustre tree? And then there's the Community Development Working Group. The CDWG is responsible for the tree maintenance contract. And when you look at tree maintenance, so, you know, you ask what that is. The Lustre tree is a huge code base, and it's constantly moving. Features are constantly being landed, bugs are being fixed, there's all of these patches. Well, someone has to look at all these things and integrate all of these things together. Currently, Intel holds this contract and does a fantastic job of landing these patches and keeping this all going and keeping this all together. In a board meeting the other day, it was interesting, one of the board members said, it's a lot like streetlights. And at first I kind of laughed and thought, But as he talked about, well, it's a lot like streetlights. We have streetlights on the road, and the streetlights are really useful for lighting the path and seeing where we're going. They're good to keep us safe when we're walking in the dark. And they provide this value that you don't necessarily see. You know, if someone asked me to come and pay for streetlights for the entire road, it's like, well, do I really want to do that? But when we all come together and we all, you know, have these streetlights that maybe let us know where we're going and keep things safe, keep things well lit, you know, this is all a good thing. It's providing this infrastructure. And that's a lot of what the tree contract is responsible for, is this Lustre infrastructure. I think it's really needed and very important to have. OpenSFS has an alliance with EOFS. I sort of think of EOFS as the European version of you know, there's a Lustre community that's European focused, and there's more of a North American focused Lustre community. And as we all come together, and the Asian Pacific community, we all come together and we have these alliances. And when I talk about the Lustre community, I really mean the entire Lustre community, everyone on the planet who is willing to be part of this community. And so we form these alliances and really concentrate on our local areas and areas where we can win. And it's really fantastic to have these expertise. I know Hugo knows Europe very, very well and can work very, very well there. And we really appreciate this alliance of working well with these other organizations. OpenSFS's goal is to make a strong Lustre ecosystem. So we'd like to ensure the continued evolution of Lustre, ensure that it doesn't get left behind, that it doesn't ignore new emerging trends, make sure that it's solving people's problems. We're providing a community resource for people, documentation, collaborative working groups. We have a wiki for people to put information in. We're building strong partnerships that I was just talking about with the OFS and with other international chapters. Building confidence in Lustre. I think this is an important thing, especially as in the past there were some issues with, the stability of Lustre. It's like, oh my gosh, these things are happening. We don't have any control over these things. Lustre might die and go away. OpenSFS is here to make sure that there's a vendor-neutral community nexus to make sure that these kind of things can't happen. We're facilitating a stable Lustre and ensuring open development. I think we heard a lot of this yesterday. 2013 was a big year for OpenSFS and for Lustre. There were major new releases. We hosted our first Asian Pacific lugs, which were a big success. There were major new Lustre features. We had the largest lug to date. We again have the largest lug to date, which is really exciting. We talked about that a lot yesterday, so I won't go over all of it. We talked about a lot of this yesterday too, but these are the funded projects that OpenSFS has funded to date. New initiatives for 2014. We're going to be fostering broader participation in the Lustre community releases. We really would like to see more people participating in these releases, release management, development, documentation, testing, gatekeeping. Wherever we can get more people participating, we think it would be a really good thing. We're going to be laying the groundwork for a transition to a volunteer community model. We really want to increase that participation. We think it's good for a healthy community. Like Ken always says, healthy community, healthy market, healthy business. When all these things come together, we all grow together and have a strong community. And we're going to be working to leverage our strong vendor commitment and partnership with EOFS to make this happen. We encourage everyone to get involved, actively participate in OpenSFS, call into the meetings, let people know what you're thinking, contribute to the contribute to the Lustre file system, contribute to the OpenSFS website, help shape the future of Lustre. And especially encourage everyone, Steve Sims is your community representative. If you don't know Steve, Steve has been the master of ceremonies for lugs, so you at least know what he looks like. You can let Steve know what you're thinking. He has a vote on the board. Also, if you have any questions about OpenSFS or if you want to talk to a board member, every board member on their badge has a white stripe on their badge so that you can identify them. It says Board of Directors. This is so you can know who we are and harass us in person. If you have any questions, let us know. And that's it. Any questions? Questions about OpenSFS, questions about the report, questions about the Lustre community? Rich.
What are you going to do with that information? You're collecting email addresses and stuff. Are you building a database? What's the intent?
Big data.
It's an example big data problem, yes. So the question was, what are you doing with the information you're collecting? And I'm not sure if you're asking specifically about the registration for the report or if you're asking for lug information. For the report. So the information that we're collecting for the report, we really want to look at how many people are looking at the report and how many different people from unique organizations. And it's just to see people told us they wanted to see a report of this nature, but we want to be able to prove that quantitatively, have these data for who's looking at it so that we can look at funding future reports and so that we can know, who's interested in this information. No, we're not going to email you. And we're not going to harass you. We might email you about another report that comes out, but that's it. Any other questions? I was beginning to think it was too early in the morning for any questions at all. All right, thank you very much.